Hey, and welcome to the Stepover podcast, Ottawa's grassroots soccer podcast. My name is Josh. Thanks so much for joining. It's been a little while. Have you done something with your hair? I love it. No notes. Keep doing what you're doing. You look fantastic. I've got a great chat lined up today with Basil Phillips, who is the head coach of Algonquin College's women's soccer program, which is returning after a 2-year hiatus. Obviously, in 2020, everything got canceled. In 2021, Algonquin decided to not field a team for that college season. So I'm really looking forward to checking out some college soccer action at Algonquin. And this was a great opportunity for me to find out, how things are going, what that's like to come back from 2 years off. So I hope you really enjoy this chat with Basil. But first, I wanted to touch on, if you've been paying attention to CPL action, you might have noticed Carleton Ravens alum Gaby Bitar scored an absolute banger of a goal in what was a 3-1 loss to Cavalry. But his goal really stood out. It was just phenomenal. And he's been making a name for himself this whole season. But that goal really was like an exclamation point. And as I've been seeing Gaby turn into this like integral player for FC Edmonton this year, got me thinking about the USports draft. He was eligible for this year. And if you caught the 2022 draft preview that I participated in with Capital City Supporters Group with Eddie Benhin and Brandon Adebayo, his name did come up as a player to watch. He didn't get drafted, but after the draft, he was signed to a professional contract by FC Edmonton. Turned out to be a pretty good idea, but it kind of got me thinking about the value of the USports draft. Because, Gaby was actually the first person ever drafted in a USports draft. He was drafted twice in 2018 and 2019, both times by Cavalry. In 2018, he was signed to a developmental contract, which was great for them because the CPL has a rule where every team needs to play a certain number of U21 minutes. And for the 2019 season, I believe Gaby would have been about 20, so his minutes would have gone towards that. And I think that could potentially be the greatest source of value in the USports draft is these developmental minutes. That's the idea behind the U21 rule, is to give players that are developing, kids that are in USports, time in a pro environment, to help them improve. But I do think it needs adjusting because we've seen time and time again players from USports at other similar levels, struggle to make that leap to the CPL. In a way, it's actually great to see that it is such a big leap from, say, USports and League One to the CPL. It's not an easy transition. That's not a bad thing, I guess. If the CPL has proven anything in a short time, it's a good league. You can be highly touted coming out of USports and absolutely struggle coming to the CPL. I think there's massive value in the draft, and we have seen some players break through, but I think that there's some tweaking that needs to be done. There's so many players playing USports soccer who are older than 21, and teams, I don't think, are going to look at any of them because I just don't think that there's any point. I think the primary way that teams look at the draft is a way to get a free look at some players who could maybe help them fill that U21 qualification. But I think as it stands right now, the rule is kind of robbing a lot of players from USports who might actually have an easier time making that jump from getting a shot in the league. I know the scouting is extremely rudimentary in the CPL. Teams don't have the resources to look across USports. Organizations that they work with do not have the resources to look across USports. That draft preview special that we did with the Capital City Supporters Group, we know of teams that are in League One who watch that for ideas for players to look into, because the scouting infrastructure just isn't. It's not there. I think that Gaby got his shot because he was just a standout player. He'd already had CPL eyes on him, thanks to his time with Cavalry and Tommy Wilden. But given that this past year for the 2022 draft, like 150 players or something like that declared, but only 16 could get chosen. I think there's room to expand it. I think we need it to have at least 2 more rounds and either increase the age of the players who qualify for minutes, maybe make it a U23 or a U24 qualification and, increase the minutes or something. Or hell, keep it at U21, but also anyone coming into USports qualifies, no matter the age. Because I guarantee you there are 23, 24-year-old players, 25, 26 even, who just are not getting looks, even though they're absolutely gamers out there in that age range. And some who may actually be able, to make that jump to the CPL maybe a little bit easier just because of their age. And hey, we're about to chat with Basil Phillips, who's coach in the OCAA, which is college in Ontario. Something we do touch on is, hey, maybe we add college players to that, because there are some fantastic college players too. Atletico Ottawa with Zakaria Baou just played college last year and doing okay right now lately. Ottawa's U21 minutes kind of rely on him right now. So I hope he does okay. And with that, I'm not going to waste any more time. Here's my chat with Basil Phillips. So we're here with Basil Phillips, head coach for the Algonquin Wolves women's soccer program. Basil, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
So what I ask everyone first when they come on is, how did you first get started with the sport? Like, how did you first get into soccer?
Into soccer? Oh, okay. Well, I've been playing since I was a child. So I started youth soccer way back, many years ago, and continued playing all through high school and then into university. When I went to Carleton University, and I played varsity soccer there as well for 5 years. So I've always been involved in the sport. And while I was at Carleton playing, that's when I started to get into coaching a little bit as well. And then the coaching just continued as I've gone on.
Okay. So like, what was it about coaching that kind of drew you to that side of things?
I like the instruction. I like teaching. I like having people learn. I like having people, improve, get better, and enjoy the sport. I want people to enjoy the sport as I've enjoyed the sport. So,
did you have a favorite player or like team when you were growing up?
When I was growing up, I would say not so much. There wasn't a lot of football that was being shown on TV at that point in time, right? You got the odd game, you'd see World Cup and things like that. So, you get drawn to players like Pele, Maradona, players like that. But then as it came on, then you got into seeing more teams and things play. So I got drawn to Manchester United. I think probably because it was one of the teams that got shown a lot, but I got drawn to them. So they became my favorite team, and, wearing their jersey right now. But yeah, so that would be my favorite team. And now I don't necessarily follow like a favorite player. Like there's a whole number of players. There's so many players that do different things. So yeah, there's many players that I like at this point.
Okay. As a kid, was there like a Manchester United player that you would like pretend to be, or would try to emulate?
No, like I said, like as a kid, it was probably more so Pele was probably my favorite growing up. So again, like World Cup and national things were the only things that you would see. So Pele became, sort of the interest that I had in terms of a player. And, I was a forward. I wore number 10. That's been my number the whole time. I was much the same as him. And when Maradona came on, somewhat similar, same number, different country, but also a great player. But yeah, I was always, I think, yeah, as a growing up, it would probably be Pele, the player.
Okay. So were you more of an attacking player?
Yeah, I was a striker. Yeah, I was a striker. Yeah.
Has that translated to, a more attacking style of coach, or what kind of coach are you?
What kind of coach? Yeah, I wouldn't say more of attacking style. It's one of the things I find as a coach. Like I've always tried to learn the game. I've tried to, study the game, improve myself in the game. So my big philosophy with coaching is I try to coach to the strengths of the players that I have. So, I don't get locked into a system and say, okay, we're going to play this system and the players are going to learn and play this system. I'll find a system that says, okay, with the players that we have, if we play, system X, that's going to be the best for us. It's going to show us the most success. So, yeah. And in terms of coaching, it might be attack, it might be defense, but I try to be well-rounded in terms of all aspects of the game so that, at any point in time, you can shift and do whatever you need to do.
So you're the head coach of the women's program at Algonquin. How long have you been coach there?
So I guess technically this is my 5th season that I'm going into. So I started in, well, I got hired late. Like I got hired in August of 2018. So essentially right before training camp started that year is when I came on. So I just came into a program, didn't know what I was getting, didn't know players, didn't know anything if anybody was returning or anything like that. So I had that season. Had the 2019 season as my 2nd season, and then the 2020 season was the one that was cut short, or not cut short. That was the one that was canceled. So this is my 5th season that I'm entering into. Been in the job since August of 2018, but this is going to be my 3rd season actually on the field.
Okay, and like, what drew you to the Algonquin job?
Well, it was available, to be frank.
Sure.
Yeah. No, like I've always aspired to coach at a higher level. So, I was coaching in the city in the women's premier for quite some time. Did some men's premier for a little bit, but mainly in the women's premier. So I've always liked that aspect, but always wanted to coach at that higher level and that higher level of commitment and attitude. So. When the job came available, I applied and fortunately I was hired for it.
So Algonquin participates in the Ontario Collegiate Athletic Association, or the OCAA.
Yeah.
So obviously in 2020, everything shut down, but the OCAA did run a 2021 season. Algonquin was one of a few schools that chose not to participate. So after 2 years, soccer is finally back at Algonquin. And I think that's for the first time as the Wolves, not the Thunder anymore. How does it feel to have, how does it feel for you just to have a season that you have a season to look forward to again?
It feels great. Like, as you said, like we've been out of it for 2 years now. So for 2 years, I've been, in behind the scenes trying to attract players to come to Algonquin, trying to get players in, but with nothing, tangible, like, the COVID season of 2020, there's always that outlook, okay, well, next season we're going to have something. So everybody's looking forward to that. When that season got canceled, then it's like, okay, but now we're looking forward to 2022. But you have a lot of players, hesitant, skeptical, not sure because we've been out of it for so long. So I think it's great for players and also for the coaches that I have. We're all excited that finally we're going to get back on the field and do some coaching and compete again.
For the players that, were able to compete with Algonquin in 2021, when other teams were, I'm trying to think the best way to ask this. Was that detrimental to any player developments, or how do you think that affected them?
It was tough. Like right now, coming into the season this year, we essentially, I don't think there might be one. We don't have any returning players. So essentially a brand new roster of players coming in. And, there were players that were recruited for the 21 season, but a lot of them graduated because, pros at Algonquin are 2 years. So they're already graduated or some of them went to different schools because other schools were playing. So, I think, on their mental psyche, I think it affected them a lot not having that season, especially seeing other schools playing last season. So, my hope is that those players that are still at the school will still be a part of the program, still come out and still look to compete. But, when your program is 2 years and you've been in, COVID year and then a canceled year, you're done. So there's players that have come to the school that never got a chance to play, but now they're gone. So it's a tough situation for sure.
It seems like you're building a brand new program from scratch. And what's that been like behind the scenes? Has it been harder to attract players this past year? Or
absolutely, because some of the younger players don't follow everything, so they won't necessarily know. But there's players, and then there's talk of some players will know, okay, they didn't have a season, so why am I going to sign there if I'm not sure they're going to have a season? So it's been extremely difficult because up until we got confirmed this earlier this year that we were going to have the season that's going to be going forward, for sure. there's still some doubt in people like, okay, are we going to have it? Because, last year when they canceled, it was canceled. We found out in May, that the season was not going to happen, or early June that the season wasn't going to happen. So everybody sort of, is it going to happen again? Not going to happen again. But yeah, like the program has never been in a situation other than when it first it started to be started from scratch. Like every year you usually have at least, a couple of players, handful of players that are going to continue the program, and it runs year to year. But this year, essentially we're looking for, 20 to 25 quality players to start building the program again.
So at this point, do you have any players that are like locked into the roster?
No, no. It's yeah, like it's difficult. Like I have players that are interested. I have players that I know that are going to be coming out. But nothing is locked in because we also haven't been able to do much in the way of training over the last 2 years. So having that as an aspect as well also affects, seeing players. So, I get to see some players through, showcases and recruiting, videos and things like that, but never in a closer look at it to look at them to say, okay, how are they going to be as a collegiate player? Right. So, basing it on, it's tough to base your decision on a player on highlights, right? Because anybody can cut a highlight video and make themselves look outstanding, right? So it's a matter of, okay, what else does this player bring? And so you start to, you wonder a little bit, but then you hope that once you get them into camp, then you can actually see. So it's a tough look. Like it's a hesitant look in terms of what we have. And we just don't know what we're going to have until we actually get into training camp in August.
Okay. So for people who don't know a lot about the OCAA level, and that 100% includes me.
Yeah.
What kind of experience do the players have? Like, outside of college, do they play with, mostly local clubs, League One Canada level teams? Like, what level are those players generally at?
You'll get a range, I find. I'll say, and it's a bit of a broader range than you will get in university, I'll say. But it's very comparable to the university level, to USports level in terms of players, in terms of where they play. So you'll get everything from League One to local, Premier Leagues to, youth coming up, OPDL, those types of levels. But you also will get players that haven't played for, a couple of years for whatever reason, coming back into the sport. Some players that just play, regional club, not necessarily that upper echelons of their club in terms of level as well. So you'll get a range, and most of those aren't those that are being recruited in. Most of those are the ones that are going to be the walk-ons that have come in, because with recruiting, you're generally looking at those upper level players and trying to compete for those players with every other school, essentially.
Again, to help fans who maybe haven't followed the OCAA before, like, who are a few other teams besides Algonquin that maybe you expect to be difficult teams to play this coming season?
Yeah, I'd probably be, putting my foot in my mouth if I didn't say everybody.
Okay. Fair.
Because quite frankly, like every other team that's in the league, that's other than Cambrian, which is from Sudbury, played last year. Right, so every other team has had a season, has been, they had the one season shut down, but has had a season under their belt after that to keep things going. So, yeah, I would expect every team, every game is going to be a tough one for us this coming season. The top teams in our division tend to be, because we're in the East Division, so OCAA right now runs an East-West division, and we're in the East Division. Top teams generally Seneca College is generally one of the top teams. Durham is usually a pretty good team. They're usually up there as well. I'll say St. Lawrence had a I'll say surprising to a lot of people, maybe not to them, but to a lot of people, they had a surprisingly successful season last year, medaled at provincials. So yeah, like I think those three would probably be definitely on the top end of teams to worry about. But as far as I'm concerned, yeah, we haven't played in 2 years, brand new team without knowing what we have. I expect every one of our 10 games to be a tough one.
Okay. With every other team, coming off a season and you're not, that does seem like, the team's a bit behind the eight ball. So as a coach, do you have any specific goals, like expectations for the Wolves, for 2022?
My expectations, I think, don't change. I guess there's my expectations, and then I guess there'll be realistic expectations. My expectations is always going to be, we want to win provincials, we want to go to nationals, win nationals. I think realistically is to make the provincial tournament. That would probably be, I won't say the ultimate goal, but I think that's probably the big goal and realistic goal for us is to make it there. And then from there, then anything can happen at that point in time. But I think, like I said, a realistic goal would be for us to make that provincial tournament, the final.
Okay. Like what has to happen for you to qualify for that tournament? Like is there a placing?
Yeah. So the way the OCAA works for playoffs, and it's a fairly generous system. So we have 8, 9, 10 teams in our division. So we play a 10 game season. So the top 8 teams essentially make playoffs in each division. And then your first round of playoffs is a crossover game with the other divisions. So 1 plays 8, 2 plays 7, etc. East versus West. So if you're in the top half of your division, first top 4, you'll get a home game in the playoffs. You're in the bottom half, then you're on the road for the playoffs. So if you win that game, then those 8 teams that win, go to the provincial tournament, which is being held at Durham this year, because Durham is the host for it. Will be held at Durham, and then you play in the provincial tournament based on your seeding. And again, it's a 1 versus 8, 2 versus 7 format at provincials.
Okay. So you are looking for players to join the Algonquin Wolves training camp, which starts August 15th.
Yep.
Who can join and how?
Well, anyone can join. Like I said, we're looking for the best 20 to 25 players we can get. So anybody can join. How would be, ideally they would contact me and let me know that they're interested. And my information is up on the Algonquin Wolves website on the soccer page. There's also a registration form on the Algonquin page that you can fill out, and that information will eventually get sent to me as well as the coach for contact. But even outside of that, you can just, if you're interested, they can just show up on August 15th and at 6:00 and have their kit ready to go and try out. So it's pretty open.
And so my last question, when the season starts, if anyone wants to come out and check a game, is that possible? Is that something they can do? Like, can people outside of Algonquin come to campus and watch?
Yeah, absolutely. Like the field, it's open. There is a fee for tickets. I'm not sure how much they are, but they're generally not super expensive, especially comparable to some of the USports venues. But it's relatively inexpensive. But yeah, anybody can come out. All our home games are at the Algonquin soccer facility, which is on campus. We play all our games there. It's a great facility, actually. To be honest, it's one of the better ones in the province. So we play our games there. Yeah, it's totally open for anybody to come watch. Our schedule's already out and out there, so we know when we're going to have our games at this point in time. So yeah, it's available. Anybody that's that's listening and checking it out is knowing that the level of soccer is quite high. It is, like I said, it is comparable to university, to USport levels. I think some people see the college game as a lesser league in some respects. Kind of the same as they see university education wise is higher than college university education. Again, they're comparable depending on what your interests are. And I think when it comes to the soccer that's being played, it is very comparable. So I think if anybody's interested in coming out and playing, I think they should really consider it as that next level, because it is next level football for sure.
Do you think that because there's the CPL USports draft, do you think that there's ever going to be like a college version as well, like on the men's side at least? Because I feel like that's elevated USports a little bit.
It has, and I would like to see, if the CPL is going to have a draft like that, like I would love to see like the college players just included in that draft. Like it just doesn't have to be like a college draft per se, but just they're going to have a, like I said, a U Sport draft, and they have U Sport college, draft, because
it's like a post-secondary draft.
Exactly. Yeah. Because there are a lot of players that play at the college level that could play at that level. They're just, but again, it gets overshadowed because it just doesn't get the same sort of recognition across the city, across the country. Like you look at a team like, especially on the men's side, look at a team like Humber, which is, I think, back-to-back national champions at this point in time. They got a lot of players that play, top level in the Toronto area. Like, and there's a lot of players there that probably can play, or probably some of them that do, that play at that CPL level. So it's there. There are players that can be there. It's just a matter of them being identified and taken more seriously, for sure.
Well, I mean, even just in Ottawa, like, as one example with Atletico Ottawa, Zakaria Baou played with Champlain, which is, a college in the Quebec version of the OCAA, whatever that's called.
Yep.
But he's continuing to progress. So just an example of college players being Absolutely. Good enough, really.
Yeah, and there's many, and again, like some players will choose their pathway based on how they're going to get identified, right? So they may have an interest education-wise in something that's more suited at the college level, but they'll go to university because they figure that university soccer is going to be better soccer. That's what's going to get me identified, to get me, even next level and beyond that. Whereas they could still play at a top, college program and do well and be identified if those measures are in place. But it's again, it's on everybody in that level to be able to look at everything to say, okay, yeah, these players can do it at this point.
Basil, that's all the questions that I have for you. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
That was my chat with Basil Phillips. I hope you enjoyed it. If you liked what you heard, or you know what, even if you didn't, subscribe to the Stepover podcast, leave a review or a dirty limerick, whatever you want. For this episode, that is all I got for you. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to leave you with the audio from Gaby Bitar's goal, his first in the CPL, I believe. Audio care of One Soccer. Until next time, we'll see you.
Bitar turning, shooting, what a goal! Oh my word, pick that out! And they've got their goal before half-time from absolutely nothing. And Gaby Bitar flashes it into the top corner. Carducci never saw it, and the Eddies are back in this game.
Bitar, I told you, he has something to prove, and what a strike, what a goal. He just picked this team up and put him on his shoulders. What a goal, what a goal. Sorry, Carducci, had no chance.